Thank you very much, everybody online. Apologise for the tech issue that we had, but we paused only not for time for council discussion, but just to sort that out. I'll now move on to item number 10 and reports for the seven central
I
district.
haven't finished yet. I haven't finished my CE report
Oh,
yet.
sorry, yeah, sorry.
Sorry,
I'm
there's
cutting to the chase.
yes. So the last item in my report is a petition which was received addressed to Rangitikei District Council relating to signage for duck crossings in Mill Street and Martin. As the report says, the petition didn't meet the legislative requirements as a petition because of the nature of it and the number of people that signed it, but because it was addressed to council, there's an obligation that I bring it to you. So
This is page 52 of your report.
45. 45.
Yep.
So with regards to this, so we've had a chat as an executive around signage, and there is real pressure on our signage budget that Roding has at the moment. A number of our street signs and other signs urgently need replacing, and we haven't got the budget for that. So what we're suggesting with this one is that we actually ask the Martin Community Committee to see if they can fund a sign or signs as part of their small projects fund. And so my suggestion is, I haven't got it as a formal recommendation, but if you're happy for me to bring it through to the Martin Community Committee, then I will do that and try and progress that as we just need our other signs sorted, which should take precedence over this one at this stage, unfortunately.
So thank you for that, Carol, sorry, to the Chief Executive. So there's no recommendation on the table here presently, but it absolutely is your right as councillors to put a recommendation for funding it directly out of council budgets now as an unbudgeted expense, if you so wish to do so. The total summary of costs is how much?
Around just under $1,000. So 2 signs, $450 each. I'm assuming we'd want them at one particular location, one on each side of the road. So if there was multiples, it'd be 100 per site. Yeah.
So councillors, I'll open it up for discussion, but I don't want discussion to take any length of time unless there is speaking to a motion. Councillor Rokawa, you had your first hand up. Take it first.
Just a question through you, Mr. Chair. I heard you say that legally they didn't have enough for a petition. Is that anywhere on our website when submitting a submission or petition, there needs to be at least 20 applicants?
That's all laid out on our website.
Kia ora.
Thank you, councillor
Ducks
Fields.
I know have been there for decades, and sometimes they're often seen on Pukipapa Road as well. If we were looking at signage, would we also be looking at putting a sign on Pukipapa Road, because they also can cross around or perhaps around Lutheran Church Way? Or is it just, the intention is just on Mill Street? I'm not sure how far these ones are wandering.
So this petition is specific to Mill Street,
Okay.
as I understand it.
Yes.
And absolutely, there may be other sites, whether it's Pukipapa Road or Calico Line, etc., where these sorts of things happen. You need to bear that in mind. I'll allow the discussion to continue. Councillor Okawa, then Councillor Buckendale, Councillor Okawa.
I'd like to move a motion.
And what's your motion?
Well, I was going to say unexpected expenses, but that the chief executive mentioned that that they look for funding through
Through the Martin
the
Community.
Martin Community
Committee, who
Committee,
have a
if it
small
could be-
projects fund.
Yes, if it could be put towards that. I don't know how to word it, but
Yeah.
Looking for a seconder to that. So Councillor Buckendale, you're seconding it. Further discussion or do you wish to speak directly to your motion, further questions rather?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's valid. I've actually got property on around that street and I've seen the ducks. I even saw them this morning. Seeing that 12 have been taken out, I think that we need to do something. And I think this is a good solution or resolution to that issue.
Councillor Wilson.
Speaking in favour of the motion, your worship, I think this sits within the remit of the purposes of our Martin Community Committee. Small grants funding.
Councillor Wong.
Question,
Take questions, certainly.
does the Martin Community Committee have sufficient funds on their small projects?
Your worship, I
Councillor
can.
Wilson was at that meeting last night,
It was
councillor.
last night, the balance of their funds had been expired for this financial year, but are replenished early in July as part of our next round of financial year. And the Martin Community Committee carries a small amount of locally funds to the tune of about $3,500 a year for small community projects. This would fit nicely within that model.
Thank you.
A question from me, if the community committee don't wish to pick this up for funding, that dies there. I shouldn't use the word dies when that's a concern, but
Your worship, if I may comment, I think that's a matter for the community committee to discuss, and then we can deal with that one at a later stage as to what they might do.
Committee minutes.
And I think moving it as per the recommendation through to the community committee is the most appropriate place for this item.
with the view if that doesn't work, there's a potential for it to be reconsidered. Okay. Any other speakers? Otherwise, I'll go for right of reply.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I must put it to those in favour. Those against. Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rotox, for bringing this to the attention of council. I understand, the reservation. I hope you do understand the reservations on the amount of signage that we have and that is needed. We'll see where the community committee favour. That's what
Just further, sorry, your worship, just wondering if we could just ask staff to perhaps pass on the details of how the process of an application to the community committee would work to further this item on behalf of those that are here.
We can take that action, we as staff will bring it through to the next Martin Community Committee meeting.
Excellent, thank you. But it would need, there's a form that they would need to fill out for an application for funding.
Can I just ask the Black Blocks, this is a seasonal event, or is this happen routinely right throughout the year?
Right throughout the year.
Okay, thank you. Does that finish your
It
report?
does, thank you.
Thank you. Moving to item number 10, the reports for decision. The board, by the way, you're welcome to stay if you wish. That's your call.
You don't need to be here.
No. Central District Water debt transfer. I'll move first of all. Can we just, while we're changing seating, would somebody like to receive the report on debt transfer, please? Councillor Charlin, looking to move that. Councillor Field, seconding that. Those in favour? To my eye. Pass. Thank you, carried. So,
Okay, so
looking at the hierarchy,
Yes.
go to the chief executive.
thank you. We've got Brent Manning online, who is the author of this report. He'll take us through it. Do you want me to introduce Jacinta?
You can or I will if you'd like
Okay,
to.
we will, for those, for those in the room who don't know, Jacinta is the lead on the finance for Central District's water. So she's heavily involved in this with Chris and Leanne and Brent. But Brent, hand over to you or Jacinta to take us through this. We can't oh, yep.
You're breaking up.
No, we can't hear you.
It's probably best if we just leave it to, I think Jacinta could probably cover
Easier.
Sorry, Brent, yeah, you're breaking up. We'll pass over to Jacinta to take through. Thanks. Yeah, through your worship.
No, no, Jacinta, can you please take us through it? We won't give you the full welcome.
Sure. Thank you, through your worship. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the welcome this morning. It's good, I guess, that it's great I'm seated beside Leanne in this process because it's probably, we've been working very closely together with herself and the other CFOs from each of the three councils through the Treasury program, which was started back in November, December of last year. So we were, it's been a great collaborative open process that we've done together. And so no doubt Leanne and I will tag team some of the conversation today. So in terms of the paper, it's a key step in the establishment of Central District's water, and I'm conscious it is a very technical paper, has lots of legal requirements as part of it. But this paper is to approve the debt transfer method and the principles and guarantees required for the setup of the financing for Central District's water. And what I'll mention that it's not about agreeing today the amount of the debt from Rangitikei that is needing to transfer into Central District's water. That process will come later. It will come sort of it'll come in December, where we'll talk about November, December with you, and then it'll come again in June 27. And that is will be a very detailed and robust process, and Leanne and the team will be a very strong part of that. But in developing this process, we started nice and early to first agree what the principles should look like with which, when we approach the transfer of debt, what those principles should be, and to get early agreement on those. And so as part of doing that, we've been working together, as I said, with the CFOs. We also held, a number of you would have attended a joint workshop in Palmerston North a number of months ago when the first meeting of the board happened, but they accompanied that as well. A number of you would have been there as well, and PwC and Simpson Grierson were also there at that meeting where they talked the whole group of the three councils together through the principles and the method for transferring debt. What we wanted to do is make sure that that process happened nice and early. So as we work through the stages of the debt transfer, that everyone's in agreement about how it should happen and what method we should approach it with. The chief executives has also been involved in this process. So we've held some deep dive sessions, as we've called it, with the three CFOs and the chief executives to make sure that everybody is in agreement. So far to date as well, we have been to Horowhenua District Council and Palmerston North. Both of those councils have recently approved the principles and the method. The board also met and confirmed that that approach was reasonable to them as well. So no pressure, but you are the last ones to also seek approval from in this process. As part of this process as well, I think it's important what we wanted to do, and Chris and I, when we discussed it with the Palmerston North City Council, is to signal to you what's coming next, because I think it's important as we ask you for a stamp today in terms of how we're going to transfer debt. And I should mention as well, when we talk about novation and that being the primary or the proposed method that we ask you for, what effectively that means is between now and the end of June 2027, I know that this council and the other three councils as well have tracked their water debt really well over the years. It's always been ring fenced. It's been well understood what portion of everybody's debt relates to each of the three waters. And so this process has recognized that, and the board has recognized as well, that they're pleased that that has been managed in a good way. I know in terms of the media and some of the conversations with other water entities, that hasn't been quite as positive because different councils have managed that in different ways. It's well understood that both Rangitikei and the others have managed it really well in terms of it being specific water debt. So effectively, the approach from a plain English perspective is at 30 June 2027 to take that water debt and effectively a portion of it that relates to the water, say it's, I'm going to make a number up, $5 million that relates to water debt for Rangitikei, is to pick that up and then transfer that into the water entity. Effectively change the name on the contract and that of that debt that relates to the three waters and transfer it into the new entity. When we've looked at it, and fairness and equity was one of the principles which you're being asked to sign off today, was a really important one. We've been working with PwC to say, because we hold a portfolio of debt amongst each of the three councils and we're all the same, we might not have specific debt, and Rangitike is a little bit different, and Leanne would speak to it, is you might hold specific water debt, but regardless of whether you do or you don't, we want to make sure that when we transfer, no one is left worse off. So while that specific dollar amount of debt might transfer, the interest rate and the terms of debt, we want to make sure that the portion that's left within Rangitike as the non-water debt and the portion that transfers as water debt, that there is approximately the same level of interest rate and the same level of term of debt left on either side. If there are any small differences, that will make sure that it's from a legal perspective, it's, they say, washed up or tidied up at the end. But that's been the approach. That's been recommended by Price Waterhouse. It's been recommended by Bancorp, who are your financial advisors as well. They've signed that off as well as being the most efficient and most effective way of transferring debt, the water's debt into Central District's water. I'm happy either way. Absolutely, yeah.
Just,
Can I, can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank
Hey.
I'll come back to you in a second, Brent, if you wish to add to the conversation. A question from me, when you see the report that's come to council under 2.1, 2. And 2.5, that seems to be repeated in our order paper as.
That's what Brent was going to cover. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
So
been a
it's-
duplication of two sections. So apologies for that. When the report was created, section 2 and section 3 were duplicated. So,
Yeah. Was that duplicated also to the other councils? Was it just our internal process?
No, something happened with our processing.
What we did, Mr. Mayor, was sort of usually, and Jacinda was tasked with writing the paper. So we get one version of it and then we give it to the three councils who then sort of take that and put it into their own systems. So there's always in people's templates require a bit of manipulation. So it's effectively the same content, but put into the three formats for the three councils. And I think it was just inadvertently a bit more of a copy and paste than was intended.
Yeah, I mean, I asked the question because, just how carefully was this sort of reviewed? Yeah. I love the explanation. Brent, do you wish to add to this conversation?
Yes, I do, your worship. And there's one other correction I need to point out. In recommendation number 3, there is an incorrect date. It refers to a Central District's Water Board approval from a meeting dated 29 May. That should read 29 April. And I bring that to your attention because it's part of the recommendation, so it will need to be corrected in the recommendation. Thank you.
So through the chair, if I just add to that, it really is the fact that we use a different system, and as it's been cut and pasted in, there's been a duplication as part of the system working.
Councillors, this is quite complex in nature, and we're talking about very large sums of money. So if you have concerns or have a lack of understanding, but more importantly, if you have a concern around it that you want answered, that is your opportunity to raise it. I note that our Chair of Finance fee is an apology paid, and I will be requesting a little bit of a deeper understanding. It's probably through you, Leanne and Jacinta, and make that available to fee as well.
And through the chair, if I recall, we had, I'm trying to think which meeting it was, where PwC actually presented and we showed the no better off, no worse off. And we reflected for us, RDC, at the time, our average weighted cost of debt now, at that moment in time, compared to what it would be if once our debt was gone, it was very consistent. And our external debt literally all but disappears within 12 months after that.
And so it's been individually reviewed by our financial team internally and a financial opinion based on that.
Met with Bancorp to go take them through it and get Miles's review of it. And I've also been part of the team in Wellington with PwC and Simpson
I
Grierson.
mean, that's reassuring to
I've been
me
across this all the way through.
that we have expertise that's been in that space. Councillor Beard.
I think that also correlates with the LGFA analysis from earlier in the year too.
We've worked with all of the teams and met with all of the teams, a number of us.
It's really important through this process that we're all in alignment and can all challenge each other in terms of our thinking for sure. It's critically important.
Just a little bit more context. I think it was their very first workshop and we spent quite a bit of time talking about the process and in particular, the fact that we were trying to do this as one exercise because there's 4 parties here. So there's 3 individual contracts effectively between Central Districts Water and each council. And, you know, a different way of approaching this was it's everyone going to their own corner, doing their own work and then negotiating it. That's clearly not very efficient. And what we wanted to do was to make sure we could run a process that we could do it once and do it collectively for everyone. But for that to work, you know, there had to be equity, it had to be fairness, you know, we had to be able to demonstrate it. And actually everyone also needed to have their ability to take their own advice on it as well, to give whatever assurances. Because the alternative is a lot longer, a lot more expensive. And that's why you see those principles in there and why they were important as part of the process. So we've reinforced that several times that it has to be, as you know, on its face, fair and equitable. And I think my belief is that we've achieved that. But you know, ultimately, I think your comment, Mr. Mayor, that everyone needs to leave here with that same level of confidence is critical because this is one of the most, you know, fundamental parts of that transfer agreement. You know that, and you know, so I mean, all we're talking about today is the mechanism, but it's still a very important part of it that you need to be comfortable.
And through the chair, I'd also like to add that Warren and Callum, our accountants that you meet regularly, have gone right back through because we're all sort of in the last few years here. We've actually checked our debt aligned to our funding impact statement, so we can actually go hand on heart. We could reconcile this debt, and I think that's really important too.
And the guarantee functions that are embedded within this document have been before council in terms of principle as approved.
That's right, and that they were, and that's been agreed as part of the shareholders' agreement. They, you know, explicitly talk about the fact that we'll enter into these.
So I'm absolutely comfortable in that space, and I'm buoyed by the fact that it's gone before the other councils already. So we're first cab off the rank. In this case, we're. Any further questions from councillors? Look, I'm happy to move recommendation 2 that we approve those guiding principles. Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Beard seconding. I've been involved in these discussions all the way through. So I'm happy. Any other speakers? No, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Would somebody like to move recommendation 3, noting that there needs to be a change, Brent, within this recommendation to which date?
29th of April.
29th of April. Right, it's already amended. Thank you. Would somebody like to move that? To move it. Councillor Wilson moving, Councillor Sharland seconding. Wish to speak to it?
Again, referencing recommendation 2, noting that the guiding principles, it's the guiding principles are the strong one there. So noting that I'm happy with you.
Any speakers? Otherwise I'll put to the vote. Put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now, this is the crunch one of the recommendation that council approved the use of the novation as the water debt transfer method from each shareholding council to Central Districts Water. Looking for a mover to that, councillor Wong.
I will move that.
You're happy to
I'm
move?
happy to move that.
Looking to second that. Councillor Beard seconding. Do you wish to speak to it?
Just briefly, we were brought to, this was brought up at the workshop in Palmerston. And the explanations here were consistent with what was brought up at that time, so I don't have any problems with this method at all, and such.
I'll speak to this. I'm in favour of this, but I would like to spend a little bit more time just understanding the nuances of the decision. And that can just be an action. Councillor Okawa.
Question, Mayor Andy, 29th of May, the CDW board, is that the appropriate date for that meeting? Or is it changed like the one beforehand?
29th of April.
April, this should be April. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll get to that. Thank you. Unless there's a further speaker or write a reply, I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Wong, do you wish to put it to the vote? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Recommendation 5, noting that, but I spotted that as well, the need for the change that date as well. This effectively flows on from 4. So I'm happy to move, looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Wilson seconding. I don't wish to speak further on this. Any other speakers? Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Then we come to the section on guarantees. So as I mentioned earlier, these guarantees have been in front of council for some time. But do you wish to take us any further comment around the guarantees?
Through your worship, I just comment that it is a requirement of us being able, Central Districts Water being able to obtain funding through the local government funding agency. It has gone through the Shareholders Committee agreement. One thing I'd comment on is the LGFA and this week have approved Central Districts Water joining LGFA, which is a significant improvement on the grounds that they would expect that each of the 3 councils will be comfortable with the guarantees.
Just maybe if I could make a comment, just to make sure everyone's clear about the global guarantee, which, so this is a second guarantee because LGFA is a little bit greedy and they won't share their guarantee. So they want to make it very specific to them. So all this does is give Central Districts Water the option of seeking finance from non-LGFA lenders with a guarantee. We've gone through an interesting exercise for the company, and we just made a decision yesterday about the transactional banker. Through that process, we sought quotes from the banks if we wanted to take a facility with them, and they generally mostly gave us 2 numbers, one with a guarantee and one without. And there's a material difference, so I guess the reason why this is in everyone's benefit, I think, is that if we do end up using those non-LGFA lenders, there is a significant financial benefit, which of course translates to lower water costs. So I think there's a benefit to the ratepayers from council standing behind that.
So perhaps you might wish to explain to us, to council, about the need for finance. The need for finance is both an operational need for finance when this is set up and an operational need for finance to cover the debt that the entity has been loaded with. But you're also talking about the need for transitional finance to set up the board and operate effectively until establishment date.
Thank you. And that was once we went through this process, I was hoping to signal as part of this, because I think it's really important that we want to be as open as we can in terms of the intentions and where we are in terms of the process. And it's something that we have signaled as part of the meetings with Whenua and Palmerston North City Councils as well. And because the program is, and Chris will comment, program's tracking extremely well. We're ahead of schedule with where we thought we would be. The board came on in terms of when the water services delivery plan was set. The expectation was that the board and the chief executive would not come on stream or on board until 6 months before the entity started. So in around December 2026, we're actually, because as you know, we've got a board already established. The chief executive interviews are imminent and are likely the role closed in the market over the last couple of weeks. So that process is well underway. And where in the water services delivery plan, the initial thinking was that the budget for the digital program to put all the systems and get everything started was initially estimated to be in year 26, 20, or 27, 28, and 28, 29, year 2 and 3 of the water service delivery plan. Because things are going well and through the review, it's coming to the point where it's becoming clear, and we had some conversations with the board yesterday around the digital program, that actually it might make more sense to complete that program a lot earlier in terms of this financial year in advance of.
Maybe I just clarify.
Yeah.
It's more than just makes more sense. It has to happen. So basically, through the work that our digital lead has done, we basically can't just leverage off council systems for most of the things that we need to do. Or, you know, let's say, for instance, we wanted to use Rangatiki's systems, we would have to onboard both Palmerston North and Horowhenua onto that. That would end up costing quite a lot of money, and it's regretful spend. So the recommendation has been to the board, bring that forward, get those systems all put in place, ready for day 1st July 2027. We would have to spend that money anyway. So yeah, so we think that's been a very, very robust process to go through. And we've had to go through quite a process with the board, taking them through that and explaining why we're doing that, and that is the best system. We've talked at length at both Horowhenua and at Palmerston North City Council in relation to that decision. And I think we just want to be very transparent about, you know, why we need this LGFA line of credit and what we're going to do with it. We don't want any later on you've been able to say, we didn't appreciate, you know, you were going to do that. So yeah, we're trying to be very transparent.
So we just wanted to clarify as well, we're not asking you to approve that today at all.
No.
Just more signaling that it's coming. So at the end of June, you will, and we've just finished today, a detailed paper that outlines how we're going with the budget, what it looks like over the next few years. And then the formal request will come to seek some interim funding. And what that means is effectively funding between now and 1 July 2027 to enable the digital program and to help make sure we can fund any operational costs that occur between now and 1 July 2027.
And that would be directly with the company. So currently, you know, if we spend some money on something, it basically gets paid by the Horowhenua District Council on behalf of everyone, and then they split that money out and each of the 3 councils pay that. So that's fine when it's little bits and pieces, but when we're talking, you know, so the budget for the digital spend is a bit over $6 million. Which overall for what we're getting actually isn't a lot of money. It's just, it's a big number, but it's in context, it's not too bad. If that then started coming through, you're talking about some quite big amounts that we would be coming back to the councils for, which would then give you, I believe anyway, significant challenges with you managing your own debt to help fund that. So this way, it doesn't have to come through the councils, it comes straight into the company. LGFA, even though and this is why the letter of support, which we're going to talk about in a second, is important for Central Districts Water to be able to borrow that money when it doesn't have the assets and it doesn't have any revenue. It's going to need and not financial support, but effectively it'll need the support of the councils to say, if something goes wrong and you can't pay your bills, we'll stand behind you. So it's sort of like a guarantee. But it's just basically, as the shareholders, we will back you to do, you know, to do this borrowing before you have revenue to support it.
Just a little bit of an explanation here. You're absolutely right. Currently, we are contributing to sort of drip feed an establishment process that was originally put at 4.1, and then this is separate, not establishment fee, but it's an operational requirement for future.
May I just clarify one bit of that?
various
So
elements.
there is 4.623, which was in the collaboration agreement. And that's what Mayor Andy was referencing there. That effectively is for the establishment costs. And then within the water, that whole budget though included as well the $6.3 million for the IT program. But that wasn't necessarily featured in the collaboration agreement because it comes in year 2 and 3 of the water services delivery plan. So the whole budget is just over 10 million, which includes the digital and the $4.6 million. And when we will be coming at the end of the month to seek that support, it's for those 2 things. And the key reason why we're asking for that support is because the digital program, we're asking for it to come in and be done now rather than in years 2 and 3. Any point of additional money on top of that, those two amounts, which were included in the water service delivery plan budget, is any additional operation costs in advance of day one. So for example, the board coming on early, the chief executive starting early, and if any staff, it's estimated, and Arno may want to comment on this one in terms of, for example, if the organization wanted to start early on the capital delivery plan, get the teams lined up to start lining up what the capital program looks like and get the planning all set up in advance of day one would mean we would likely need to bring some staff and support on board early. So that funding would allow us to have the money available to pay for those types of things. So it isn't a whole big bunch of new money. There are a few bits on the periphery, but the main reason is because it's asking to bring the digital program forward from year 2 and 3 into this current year.
The digital program means day one, when this entity is set up, that the billing will be particular to the entity rather than billing via each individual council, which gets messy.
Hopefully.
Hasn't been
Yeah.
quite decided yet.
Yeah, but it is certainly, is definitely, Samara is definitely plan A, and we'll be working incredibly hard to try and make that the case. So there's a couple of examples around the country at the moment of entities that are starting on 1st July 2026. So Te Ākiwai in Wellington, and we've got fairly good links into that, and they are having, excuse my language, but they're having a hell of a time with that. They're spending, I've heard the number, and I know it's sort of confidential, but is, let's just say, several millions of dollars to get the councils the ability to be able to bill on their behalf. And that's not running well. I mean, they may be okay, but that's all money they'll never get back, right? Because it's basically a short-term arrangement to allow them to bill through the councils. So we'd like to avoid that. We think, and this is why we've pushed the board very hard on the digital strategy to want to start early, because the sooner we start, the more time we've got, the more options we've got. And I know it sounds, for those that have been involved in digital system, big digital system upgrades, we're still only talking about a bit over a year, but we believe we've got a couple of options that we're looking at. Our key partner in this is Blue Beacon, and they've been doing good for us. They've already ran these projects specifically for Waikato Waters, and they've stood up their systems in 5 months. So, and the reason they can do that is because we're not going to be doing, bespoke configurations. We'll be taking exactly what they've got, and we're going to be putting it in here, because the value is, if we're all on the same systems and we're all configured the same way, it gives us really good options going forward to do things together. So I think that's a big part of our strategy. But just to be clear, we probably won't make a final decision on the billing until October. Reason there is we can't get this wrong, and we've got to keep all of our options live until we're 100% confident that we're going down a path that we know that will deliver.
And as part of that billing, Leanne, for example, and the other CFOs have all submitted proposals in, so that when the decision's made, it's clearly understood what are the options in terms of if each council was to also do the billing themselves or to provide billing services on behalf of the water entity as well.
Okay, we're starting to also talk about sections that are beyond the recommendations. So recommendation 6, would somebody like to move that? Councillor Wilson, Councillor Baird seconding? Or are you suggesting it's the other way around?
Either way, right.
Councillor Baird moving, Councillor Wilson seconding. That gives you the right to speak, Councillor Baird.
Makes good sense.
Makes good sense. Any further speakers? I don't think we'll give you right of reply for that. But those in favour? Those against? Carried. Recommendation 7, I'd like to consider a change to recommendation 7. That the council delegates the agreement to final approval of the guarantees to the chief executive and mayor. And the only reason for that is because of the scale of what we are doing. And it just folds in to some extent the governance harm. I see no material change in that. I don't see a questioning of that process, but I just think that the scale is important. So I'd like to move that, looking for a second to that.
Question?
Question.
There are questions, I'll take questions first. Well, can I have a seconder so it's on the table? Councillor Buckingham, second, take questions, certainly. Councillor Okawa.
Thank you, Mayor Andy. The council delegates agreement of final approval of the guarantees to the chief executive of our council or CDW.
Good point. The chief executive of RDC.
Kia ora.
You're right.
Could that,
That's
be
a
articulated?
absolutely relevant point. Further questions, councillor Wong, did you have a question?
The wording as such was accepted by the other two parties, I take it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's how shared be subject to.
Maybe just to, if you would like me to address that point. So I think, and I'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we would probably, so the guarantee will have, it may have a signature block for a signature. I guess what you could do within the council here, which is completely appropriate, is that, you know, the chief executive and the mayor work together in terms of saying, yes, that's fine. And then there might be just one party of the two that signs it. Is that what you anticipate? Yeah. So, I mean, so we can make that work, but definitely I would imagine that actually the other two chief executives are probably working alongside their elected member, their mayor as well around that. So I think that's, while they haven't may said it, there probably is not inconsistent with what's going to happen. Yeah.
And that's what we tend to do as a matter of course. Anyway, that's Carol, as chief executive. Do you see any difficulties with that?
No.
Change? I've effectively spoken by way of my explanation around scale and size. Any further speakers? Councillor Okawa.
I'd like to speak in favour of this recommendation, and the clarity, and also showing that both the chief exec and the mayor to be in to be part of this, and it will filter back to us. So I absolutely agree with adding the mayor onto that recommendation. Kia ora.
Yes.
I also agree with adding the mayor on. I think this is a lot of work and we really appreciate all the hard work that has been done. So I think this is a really good recommendation.
I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion carried. Recommendation 8, that council notes the approval for the provision of the deed of support to be provided by the shareholder councils in favour of the CDW in order to ensure that Central District Water can meet its obligation in relation to any pre-establishment funding via the deed of support will be included in a paper to councils on the 25th of June 2026. Are those dates still correct?
So.
It's our meeting date. That's our meeting date. That's correct.
But you don't see any change for that?
No.
For your worship, that's the answer is yes, the paper is drafted.
Thank you. That's what I was hoping to see. Any questions? Would somebody like to move? Councillor Okawa moving, looking for a seconder. Councillor Fu seconding. Councillor Okawa, do you speak to this?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Any other speakers? What's the vote? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Recommendation 9, that council approve the execution of the LGFA guarantee and global guarantee and all such ancillary documentation as required in relation to the implementation on behalf of councils by and in the case of deeds, including the guarantees and deed of support to elected members, and in any case of other documents, the chief executive and mayor. Would you like to give us an explanation with regard to this? Anything you'd like to add to it?
I don't think so. I think in line with the legal requirements, who's expected to sign and.
That's in line with legal
And that's, yeah,
requirements.
certainly, because it's a deed, deeds usually have particular requirements in DFA, yeah.
I was going to make exactly that point, but it's a legal requirement. You wishing to move?
Happy to move, yeah.
Looking to second, councillor Rakawa, you're first. Do you speak to it?
Just to say, it's just a tidy up process, recommendation.
Yeah.
And the explanation, Chris was.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Councillor Shalin, question?
Just because you've added chief executive RDC, should that be added to that bit as well?
I think the fact that it says that council approves is probably sufficient to cover it, and would be my suggestion. I'm sorry, Your Worship.
Do you, staff, do you see a need?
I don't think so. I think it's inherent in it.
It's our paper.
Yeah.
Sure. Put to the vote, those in favour? Those against? Carries.
Thank you.
Anything else from you? Before you?
Maybe just to note, thank you. It's, we're in an amazing place. There is no other entity who are, going live on 1 July 2027 that is anywhere near where we are. And the reason that we are where we are is because we've got 3 councils that, are taking this seriously, you know, that we're able to come and talk things through and you get your head around it and you say yes, and trusting us as a team to go forward with it. So I just want to say I've sort of recognised that and just sort of acknowledge what a great job I think everyone's doing, and particularly this council. So thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we appreciate absolutely that you have come to our council meetings. You've taken part in these discussions with us and guided us through it. So thank you for that. And safe journey home.
Thank you.
We now move into item 11, the minutes from committees. Would somebody please like to receive them as a block?
Leave as a block, Your Worship.
Receive as a block.
Thank you very much. I think this is routine. I'll put it straight to the vote unless there is a question raised. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Now we need to deal with the recommendations. First of all, could somebody receive the report on recommendations? Councillor Field moving. Councillor Rakawa, you seconding? Or you
Yes.
questioning?
I was going to move it as a
Receive the
block.
report, please.
Sorry. Yes, I'll second.
Okay, put it to vote. Those in favour? Right, can somebody take us through the recommendation from Te Rūpea Car around the funding of the $8,446 to Opia Marae? Would somebody like to take us through that question,
Could
councillor?
I
Field?
just have a explanation of what the Marae Development Fund is?
I was hoping for that.
Yeah, certainly. So we have a Marae Development Fund, which is focused on improvements to Marae around the district. So what we look at is we put it for Te Raukaua Hika, our EV Standing Committee. We go out for applications every year. Those applications come in, get considered by Te Raukaua Hika, and then they make recommendations through to council. So the works that are approved are various. Sometimes it's painting, sometimes it's structures. It really depends on what each Marae need at that particular point in time. The funds is around $16,000 per year. So these 2 recommendations you've got in front of you represent the entire year's funding split across recommendations for 2 Marae. It might be that councillors want to work through recommendations one by one or make a decision on them as a group.
I just add to that too, that this fund has actually been in place since about 2011. It's been around for a very long time and it sits in our long-term plan.
This is basically the same one as we talked about last week with the flooding and stuff up at,
Oh, they were Marae assessments. That was different. We got better off funding to do the Marae assessments.
Okay,
That's
yep.
different.
Yep,
This is,
thank you.
this is our fund.
Yeah, and I'll come to you in a second, councillor Baird. So sometimes there is government money released for different purposes for Marai and Iwi. And for instance, when you're on the tour the other day, there was reference to, you know, the upgrades work at Kongaroa. And that, you know, went through a different system. And, you know, one of the requests, you know, that was made to you the other day was for funding. And this is a funding that we could direct them to apply for instance. So it is contestable. Councillor Wong.
A question, please. Is this fund inflation adjusted at all? Thank you.
Councillor Ben, sorry, I meant to come to you before.
I need to declare conflict of interest for recommendations 2 and 3, please.
So with
Well,
recommendation,
probably wise to say for all of them regarding these reports.
where's your?
My son's involved with some of these
Oh,
spending.
okay, yeah, absolutely, sorry. Yeah, but he's not involved currently with my Whonga. He hasn't done some work on it. Councillor,
I would like to move both recommendations on the basis that I've been a part of the conversations and part of Te Ropu Wahika in listening to and observing the development fund for the marae. So I'd like to move them in recommendation 2 and 3.
that's fine. Looking for a second to that, councillor Buckingham seconding. You wish to speak to it?
No, well, actually, no, being a part of the process or listening to the recommendations that were made from Te Ropu Wahika, I believe it was a good decision made through that committee brought to us.
I'll speak to it in terms of, this has been in place for some time. It is embedded within our long-term plan. And if you were going to change the funding principles in the future, the long-term plan would be the appropriate time, place to look at that. So I'd speak in support. Any other speakers?
In support, and it's probably more than you require, your worship, but this is just a council fund. It sits alongside community initiatives, other funds that council has, and it's appropriate to have it used and issued at this time of the year, seeing as we're about to roll over. So that's perfectly appropriate that these be received and so to speak in favour.
Anybody wishing to speak against? I've had 3 speakers for. Do you wish to write a reply?
No, thank you.
Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Before I close the meeting, staff, is there anything that I've neglected to do?
Close the meeting.
So, yeah, sorry,
Yeah, so,
just reading.
yeah, no, it's
Reading
not
in
on
front of
there,
me.
so maybe
Yeah.
just.
So would somebody like to move that we move into public excluded for the reasons given? In terms of commercial sensitivity, essentially. Councillor Sharon, do you have?
Could we just, before we leave, could we go back to the health and safety dashboard?
Oh, you're going back quite a long way, but you're going back to the chief executive's report. And I'm prepared to do that if there is a sound reason for doing so.
You know, I'm just concerned that the events, hazards and near misses with motor vehicles is quite large.
So, an explanation that staff want to give to me, or can this be raised as an issue to be dealt with?
We can send you some information on that.
Because that's over the full year.
Oh, okay.
And it's not necessarily all their own fault.
Yeah.
But yes, you know, you've got to remember how much of our fleet is on the road and how often they're on the road. But we can get some more information on that view, certainly.
Lovely, thank you.
That deal with it as far as you're concerned? So the resolution to exclude the public is there. Would somebody like to move that for the reasons given? Go councillor Okawa, councillor Wilson seconding. Put us to vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. For those online, Thank you very much for your attendance.